there, welcome to Fierce4 Fun. I'm Adita Lang, your Fierce4 Nutrition and Wellness Director. Today we're going to be exploring some Pilates techniques to help amplify your movements and hopefully really penetrate into a client's routine. So our first thing today that we're going to be talking about is the shoulder blades. For days and days when people are on the phone working at their desk, their shoulders go forward and forward and forward. You add kids, baggage, purses, and now you have a whole shoulder girdle that's just all messed up. So on that note, let's really work on trying to teach our students where our shoulders should be, where in space they should be. They should be pulled back and down. When that happens, your chest elevates. Yes, you create a little bit more of an arch in your spine, but at that point you really tighten up that rib cage and you pull in through the abdominals. So now your spine, the arch that you have is actually the arch that was given to you. So you want to keep that arch, but now it's a protected arch because your ribs and your abdominals are holding it in. By keeping the shoulder blades back and down, now you take away this tension that goes on in the neck. Through time and improper biomechanics, all we do is add more tension into the neck. That creates tension into our jaw, and that's where things like TMJ kick in. Headaches, migraines. So we want to move all of that away. So think about really opening this up, shoulders are back and down. So now let's talk about some exercises that are going to help to really accentuate that. One thing I like to do is in the warm-up, amongst other things, I like to get people to just feel where their shoulders should be. So the arms are up and all they're doing is squeezing their shoulder blades together and letting them separate. And I like people to exaggerate the motion so that they can really feel what's going on. So they're exaggerating, they're reaching as high as they can, and then when they squeeze their shoulder blades, they almost want to feel like they're holding a dollar bill in between their shoulder blades, really pushing them back in together and pressing it up and bringing it down. So this motion I like to use as a warm-up. And this will get them then settled so that if I'm holding them down and in, I can roll up into my crunch and still keep them down and away as opposed to up here, which is where the average person holds their shoulders at a crunch. So your shoulders are back and down and away in that crunch. And we can do the 100, right? We can do just a basic lift. We can do leg lowers from this position. All of it still maintaining the shoulder girdle. So now our second movement is going to be more sitting up. When we were lying down face up, that's more of a basic, just getting people aware of their motion. Now I want to try to fine tune it a little bit more. So I'm going to turn my back to you. And what I want you to do is focus on getting those shoulder blades way back and thinking about holding a dollar bill, but at the bottom edge of your shoulder blades. Not up too high, because remember, if you start talking to your students about reaching high, they're going to bring their shoulders up. I want their shoulders to go back and down. So if you focus on a dollar bill right down at the bottom, and you squeeze the shoulder blades to hold the dollar, and you let it go. And you squeeze again, and then you let it go. That's your movement, right there. Feeling those shoulder blades go as tight and as close together as they possibly can, so that you can get those rhomboids engaged and all, in a weird way, waking up the rhomboids so they can kick in and do it on a normal basis so that this feels normal. Your next motion is going to be your next progression. And all of these movements, they don't have to be done one after the other. They can be thrown in between. A lot of times the following movement I'm going to do, I like to do it before I do any kind of a push-up. So anywhere you want to place it, you can. So you're going to bring your body up into a plank position. Your abdominals are in nice and tight, right? So that rib cage is solid. You're looking down so that your neck is in alignment with the rest of your body. And the same thing goes. You squeeze the shoulder blades and you let it go. And you squeeze them and you let it go. So now you're using body weight as your resistance. This same movement could be done from the knees. So beginner exerciser who doesn't have the strength to hold themselves up could start here. And as they start getting the strength, then they can work their way back up again. The key to this, though, is not to let your hips sag down and your belly fall to the floor, keeping everything nice and straight and tight and squeezing from the shoulder blades and letting them go. Okay, so now how are we going to incorporate that into movement? So let's talk about a basic Pilates movement, the rollover. I love the rollover. Rollover requires a lot of strength from that abdomen, but it's going to also work on pulling these shoulders back and down. So No one said you had to roll over for the rollover. Trust me on that. So here we go. We're going to lie down. You're going to think about where your shoulder blades should be. They need to be back and down. So when they do that, your chest uplifts, your back arches a little bit, and I want you to squeeze from the rib cage. Let's pull the knees up. Hands are flat to the floor. So a rollover is bringing your legs up and over you. And now who's going to do that motion? Is it going to be your arms? No. So you want to really think about getting the weight more so into your shoulder blades and back into that mat. If you start with the knees bent, as you tuck under now, your back goes flat to the floor. You bring your legs up and you press the legs over. Okay, but if you watch my shoulders, they didn't really come off the floor. Most people try so hard to get their legs up that they use momentum and their shoulders come up off the floor. And now they're accentuating that bad posture again. So let's work with this, really getting the shoulders in, starting more in a condensed position, because then that way your range of motion is a little bit smaller, but it's a little bit easier to manage. So you're here, you're gonna roll, keep the shoulders into the mat. There you go, hold it there, and then slowly work on rolling yourself down. You bend the knees a little bit so you control it. At this point is where the average person lifts their shoulders. Get those shoulders into the mat, hold them down and let yourself roll through. Another little tidbit when you are doing the rollover is that if somebody has their hands facing down, they tend to push on their hands. When they push on their hands, their shoulders come up. So if you start seeing that in class, get the shoulders in and tell that participant to turn their hands up. By their hands being turned up, they'll put less weight into their hands and hopefully focus more on those shoulders. So we can take the legs up now. We'll go up and over, keeping those shoulders back and down. The abs are nice and tight. And again, we work on rolling down, keeping the shoulders into the mat and pressing the legs up. As we progress and become stronger at it, our legs will go down further and they'll work their way up nice and slow. Then you peel through the spine, shoulders stay into the mat, and you bring yourself up and over. And you can work yourself all the way over as long as you're really trying to keep those shoulders down and back. Bringing yourself down, I want you to think about something. When we're bringing our body up and over, there's those people that say, oh, but look at all the stress you put onto your neck. Yes, there is a tremendous amount of stress you put onto your neck if your shoulders are up here. So if you really work on keeping the shoulders back and down, and you work on your progressions so that you progress into the movement, you don't just jump into the advanced final phase. You progress yourself into the movement, you'll become stronger and stronger, that by the time you do get your legs all the way over, there is no stress on the neck because these muscles and your rhomboids have all gotten so strong that they're keeping the pressure away from the neck. Hopefully that makes sense. So now where else can we really address what's going on with our neck and our shoulders? Let's take something simple as just a basic hands and knees. Hands and knees. So if you've watched my other videos, you'll notice that I always talk about pushing the pubic bone out and away so it stays parallel with your hip bones. Your rib cage is in real nice and tight so that it's flush with the abdomen. And right here, I have even weight on both arms. Okay? So now if I wanted to work on shifting weight, we're going to keep the legs steady first because again, we're working on progressions. So we're going to work on just one arm. If I have any imbalances going on in my erectors, I'm going to shift. So if I keep everything real centered and my erectors are real tight, I'll hold it centered. But now if I have any imbalances going on with my shoulders, I'm going to probably pull myself up because it's just going to feel better for me to control it. So again, we got our shoulder blades squeezed together, our ribs tight, our pubic bone pushing out, and we're going to press out. This alone is an exercise. You should feel this side of my abdomen right now. It's just tight, holding me centered. If I wanted to add an opposite leg, I could do so, keeping myself centered, and then bringing it back down. And then I could work on the other side, just the arm. Then I can press into the leg, and then I could bring it back down. Your goal here is that whatever's in contact with the floor, so if you're doing opposite arm, opposite leg, the arm and the leg that are on the floor, they should have the same amount of weight. we tend to shift. It's an unconscious thing. We shift so that we can compensate to try to do the best we can. So you as the instructor are the ones who need to start teaching all the basic progressions so that your students feel comfortable doing whatever they need to do for their body type. So really, in a perfect class, all of your students should have a different range of motion because they all have different strengths and weaknesses. Does that make sense? I hope so. So now if we look here, I like to add in to my Pilates class a few stretches, one of which is a downward facing dog. So now we're talking about the shoulders again, right? So here we are, downward facing dog. So think about where your shoulders are. Typically we put weight on the base of our palm and we're just pushing back, and then there's a lot of strain going on in the wrist. So what you want to do is your head is relaxed, use your shoulder blades, squeeze your shoulder blades back and together and away from the neck. In that you'll put more weight into your fingertips and press all the way through to your pubic bone. And then you can bring yourself back. So you could incorporate an exercise of squeezing your shoulder blades, separating it, squeezing it back, and then pressing back and through. Really accentuating where the shoulder should be in space. And then press it back, squeeze them together, separate them, squeeze them again, and press back. All the way through. And that will teach your students where their shoulders should be. And hopefully at the same time too, they'll start thinking about it more and more during their day. We typically have our side of preference. So the side we like to hold the phone on. That side's going to be a little bit tighter. It's going to cause a little bit more strain than the other side. When we start incorporating exercises like this, your students are going to come to you saying, oh, but this hurts a little bit more. It never hurt before. Well, it didn't hurt before because it was stretched out so much, because the other side was so tight. So there's going to be these little weird aches and pains that people are going to come up with. But that's natural because they've had whatever they've been doing. They're carrying a purse, a child, their life on their shoulders. So we're just trying to help opening that up. Opening all of this up is going to help lengthen the spine back into place. It's going to help alleviate all that tension that goes on right at the base of the skull, and at the same time too, hopefully alleviate a few headaches. What do you think? So on that note, I would like to thank you for joining us here at Fierce4 and exploring these Pilates options. Hopefully they'll help enhance your class and help you have a little bit more fun in your teachings. Have a great afternoon. Bye for now.